All right, guys, another big rent control bill just passed the first committee at the state capitol. That's right, they're back at it, 2025 spring, hard at work, trying to destroy the rental housing market for everyone. I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm not sure they know what they're doing, but they've got special interests. They've got these different groups that are continually pushing them to advance tenant protections ad nauseum, nonstop, every year, multiple times a year. And we got to do our best just to navigate it. So I'm gonna break down kind of what's going on with this bill. This one's called AB 1157. You can forget about the name because there's gonna be 5 other ones in 2 months. But 1157 is what it's called for now. And basically what it will do is lower the rent cap in half. So let me take you on a trip down memory lane real quick. I'm gonna try to make this real simple, but basically in 2019, they passed a bill called AB 1482, which was essentially a state rent control bill that did 2 things. One is it gave you only limited reasons you could give someone notice to vacate or evict someone. It had to have just cause, or if there's non-just cause reasons like you're moving back in, then there's rules for that. But the bigger thing it did was it limited rent increases to 5% maximum plus CPI, which is a fancy word for inflation. And so it's about a 10%. Just to make it simple, 10% was the max you could raise rent. Now, we've learned because CPI inflation just went down that it's like right now, as of this taping, it's lower than 10%, it's around 8%. But that was the rule. So I'm minding my business, managing rental property in Southern California, and we get alerted of, hey, AB 1157 is on the docket. And basically what it will do is cut the maximum amount of rent you can increase in half. So it would max it out at 2% plus CPI, max 5%. So that's a problem right there, because we know through studies done at Harvard and Stanford that rent control doesn't work. It doesn't have the intended consequences. It has a lot of unintended consequences. One being that now everyone raises rent because they're under these rent caps. So everyone's rent goes higher. But the even crazier thing that this bill will apparently do, and I don't even know how it's legal, is it will make it apply to single family homes and condos. So when I read this, I had to shake my head. I'm like, what's going on? Because the will of the voters in November of 2024, if you remember Prop 33, it was basically a vote for rent control or less rent control. And the citizens of our great state overwhelmingly voted 60-40 to not vote for this. It was actually the 3rd time these extreme forms of rent control had been defeated by voters. Prop 33 was basically at its core about protecting a bill called Costa-Hawkins, which was passed in 1995, that essentially said you can't pass rent control on single family homes and condos. It was kind of like a bipartisan agreement that, hey, there'd be some rent control allowed, but can't pass it on houses and condos or newer construction, because we didn't want to disincentivize builders. So anyway, that's a law in place. So I don't know how this representative who's trying to pass this bill and the people that voted for it are saying, no, actually forget what the voters said. We're going to say that this will also apply to houses and condos. So there's probably some backroom litigation going on about this, because I don't know how they can repeal the bill that voters just voted not to repeal. But just take notice, if you're a constituent of California, that basically the representatives who voted for this, and we'll list who they are so you know, are essentially saying, we don't care what the vote was, we're gonna pass rent control anyway. So limiting how much you can charge for rent will mean less people rent their homes, will mean people have less profit, so they are gonna fix their properties up less, more dilapidated buildings. Rent control just makes an unhealthy market already more unhealthy. And so this is doubly wrong for a couple additional reasons. Number one, when they passed AB 1482, it was a 10-year bill. And the idea was, hey, we all know that more housing needs to be built in order to actually solve this issue of making, housing prices more affordable on the rental and sale side. But we can't do that overnight. So we're gonna pass this bill. It's gonna be in law for 10 years. And then after 10 years, we'll be able to have 10 years to build more housing. Okay, great. So number one, this goes against that because it actually makes the rent control laws more draconian and basically breaks that promise. The other real tangible evidence that laws like this are bad for our housing market is when Prop 33 was first announced that it was gonna try to get put on the ballot a couple years before the 2024 election. In 2023, housing permits were 60,000 in California for multifamily. And then in 2024, they were 30,000. And so it was a half drop in an otherwise good market for new housing construction for multifamily. It just shows that when these big developers developers or just even mom and pop, landlords have to deal with more strict forms of rent control, they just go elsewhere. They just decide not to rent. So 1157 is just another attempt to protect tenants, which is going to actually hurt tenants, make rents go higher, and make everyone continue to raise rent the maximum amount they can every year. So every year it's just another step where they keep trying to take more private property rights from landlords, make our housing market more unaffordable, and we don't have to stand for it. So what do? Well, we can contact our representatives, and it's actually very easy. I've been banging the drum on this since the last couple years where I've really started to get more involved, and I'm amazed at a few things. Number one, if you email your representative, it's super easy. It takes 60 seconds or less, and they usually get back to you. It might be a form letter or whatever, but they get back to you. Two, if you call as well, it's doubly effective, and it's amazing. State representatives, although very inept at many things, are actually very good at picking up their office phone. If you call any of your state representatives, be it the assembly member or the Senate, they will have someone actually pick up the phone, usually within like 2 rings. It's quite impressive, quite remarkable actually. And so you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, I just want to voice my opposition against AB 1157. I want to tell them no more strict forms of rent control. And these legislators, they hear their emails, they hear their calls. Let them know that you're not happy and you'll vote them out if they vote for stuff like this. And also consider donating to places like California Apartment Association or the Southern California Rental Housing Association, because these are organizations that are on the front line of trying to defend not just private property rights, but liberty and actually a healthy, vibrant community for everyone in our great state. Because at its core, rent control is bad, as bad for tenants as it is for homeowners and everyone else. So that's what's happening at the state level. And if you're interested in staying up to date on all the legal changes that are going on of note to landlords in Southern California, then check out my other video on legal changes, and we'll keep you posted on things that happen that are important to landlords in California. Make it a good life. All right, so I literally just got word that they are pulling the bill AB 1157 from consideration due to lack of support. Yes. Oh, but everything I just said in this video still applies and should be paid attention to, because the person that brought it, the representative, already said he's going to try to bring it again, and they're going to keep trying to do stuff like this. But all of you that made your voices heard, all of you that tune into this channel, stay up to date on things like this. Bravo, a win for landlords today. One more bad measure defeated.